The sheriff's deputy, who first came upon the station wagon, said it looked like it had been there for days. Dust clung thick to the back window. Dead leaves were scattered across the hood, clumped into corners where the wind had pushed them. The car was parked at a strange angle on a disused logging road in a remote stretch of Lassen County, Northern California. The forest rose in all directions, tall, still, and silent. No sound but the creaking of pines, no footprints, no motion, just a car, alone. It was October 21st, 1977. The air had turned crisp, and the last of summer's warmth had drained from the mountains. A road worker had reported the vehicle earlier that day, noting how it didn't belong there. There were no campsites nearby, no homes, no hunting cabins, just trees, dirt, and a long-forgotten trail that twisted deep into nowhere. The deputy called it in. Something didn't sit right. He waited for backup, and when it arrived, the two men approached the car together, stepping carefully over dry needles and fallen branches. It was unlocked. Inside, they found no signs of a struggle, no blood, no broken glass. But what they did find made no sense. The keys were still in the ignition, jackets draped over the seats, a half-finished carton of milk, toys, and shoes. Everyday objects, left as if the people who owned them had only just stepped away. And yet, there was no one there. There was no sign of movement through the brush, just the soft ticking of a cooling engine, and the vast, watching silence of the forest. The wagon remained where it sat, untouched, unexplained, and the occupants were never seen again. In the remote hamlet of Honeydew, California, nestled amid the rugged mountains of Humboldt County, lived the Stuart family. Mary Elizabeth Stuart was 32 years old, a mother devoted to her two young daughters, Jessie Flo Stuart, age 2, and Fanny Fawn Stuart, just 1. They resided on a rural homestead off a lonely mountain road, an area so isolated that neighbors were few and the wilderness pressed in on all sides. Mary's husband, Byron McGray Stuart, worked the homestead and was known to locals for his hot temper, but the family kept mostly to themselves in their quiet, off-the-grid life. As the holiday season of 1977 approached, nothing seemed amiss. Yet an unsettling mystery was about to unfold in this peaceful, wild corner of Northern California. Saturday, December 10th, 1977, dawned cool and grey beneath the ancient redwood canopy. That morning, Mary packed up her two toddlers into the family's red Opel station wagon for a routine trip to town. Around 10 a.m., the Stuart family vehicle rolled away from their homestead and onto the winding dirt roads leading out of Honeydew. Mary had a full day of errands planned. She intended to buy groceries and pick up freshly laundered clothes, stop by a repair shop to fix a broken portable television, and possibly visit an optometrist. Tasks that would take her to the towns of Fortuna or Eureka, about an hour or two away on the rough country roads. She carried about $200 in cash for the shopping and repairs, and she told her husband they would be back by nightfall. With two little ones in tow, Mary likely hoped to complete the trip swiftly. As the red station wagon disappeared around a bend, it seemed like any other Saturday. None of the Stuarts' neighbors or friends realized It would be the last time the young family would be seen alive. Evening came to the Humboldt Hills early in December, the daylight fading under fog and shadowy trees. But on this night, the Stuarts did not return home by dark as expected. Their homestead remained silent and empty. Mary's husband Byron grew anxious as the hours passed, with no sign of the red Opel winding back down the road. At first, there may have been hope that car trouble or a delay in town was keeping Mary and the girls. Perhaps they had decided to stay overnight with friends or family. But Honeydew was a small, close-knit community, and by the next day, worry had begun to spread. Calls to friends yielded no information. The Stuart family had seemingly vanished without a trace. The routine errand run that should have ended with groceries unpacked by the warm glow of lantern light instead ended in eerie silence. For 3 days, the mystery deepened with each passing hour. Byron Stuart later told authorities that he waited, hoping for any word from his wife, before finally raising the alarm. On December 13th, a missing persons report was officially filed with the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office when Mary and the children still had not turned up. The case was immediately treated with concern. The bulletin noted possible foul play, and deputies began organizing search efforts along the family's intended route. In the tiny communities dotting the north coast, residents shared a collective dread at the news. A mother and 2 babies were out there somewhere, lost or worse. The authorities and local volunteers sprang into action, scouring the remote highways and back roads that connect Honeydew to the outside world. In the days following the disappearance, search parties fanned out across southern Humboldt County, battling rough terrain and cold winter rain, in a race to find any sign of the missing family. Deputies, forest rangers, and neighbors combed the route Mary would have traveled. Teams of 25 or more volunteers, in vehicles and on horseback, ventured into the wilderness, tracing paths through the redwoods and muddy logging trails. They scoured landmarks and junctions, from the twisting roads over Panther Gap and the isolated track of Windy Nip, all the way to the creek beds near Bull Creek and out to the town of Ferndale on the coast. Every mile of roadway between Honeydew and Eureka was checked. The mounted posse and even a marine unit searched river shallows and dense foliage for the slightest clue. But nothing was found. No car tracks, no broken glass, and none of the personal belongings that might fall from a family car. It was as if the red Opel and its occupants had simply evaporated into the misty forest. Local law enforcement spread word to surrounding counties and the entire state of California. All western states were alerted to be on the lookout for Mary, her daughters, or the distinctive red station wagon. Days turned into weeks. The FBI and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children were notified too. Still, no sightings were reported. In the small Honeydew community, fear grew. A gnawing realization that something terrible must have happened on that isolated trip. Neighbors double-checked their properties, old logging paths, and remote clearings, hoping to find any indication of the family's fate. The forest remained mute. The Stuart family's trail had gone cold almost as soon as it began. Over a month after the Stuarts disappeared, a breakthrough finally came, but it only deepened the mystery. On January 19, 1978, a local surveyor crew navigating an unused logging road not far from the Stuart property stumbled upon a strange sight. A red Opel station wagon, caked in mud and sitting lonely among the ferns and redwood undergrowth. It was Mary's car. The vehicle was discovered about 1.5 miles from the Stuart homestead, on a rough spur road that Mary ordinarily never drove. The overgrown route was not part of her usual path to town, though it did meander back toward her property eventually. How the car got there and when, nobody could yet say, but there it was at last, hidden in the forest, as if deliberately tucked away. Investigators rushed to the scene. The station wagon told a grim and perplexing story. Groceries were still inside the car, bread and canned goods from the market, now spoiled by time. A basket of laundry sat in the back seat, freshly washed clothes neatly folded but now long cold and damp. And there in the cargo area was the family's portable television set, the very one Mary had meant to get repaired. Strangely, the TV had been fixed. It was in working order, yet no repair shop in the region recalled ever servicing it or seeing Mary that day. This chilling detail suggested that at some point during their errand run, the Stuarts did meet with someone who repaired the TV, or they visited some unknown location only to vanish afterward. The car itself was in an unusable state. The gas line had been severed or broken, rendering the vehicle inoperable. Whether this damage was accidental or a sinister act of sabotage, police could not immediately tell. The Opel had simply run out of fuel and been left on that desolate spur, its tank dry and its mission unfinished. Outside the car, the winter woods were silent. No footprints or bloodstains could be found around the vehicle. There were no signs of a struggle, no shattered glass, no disturbed gravel or obvious clues on the ground. It was as if Mary, Jessie, and Fanny had walked away into the trees or been carried off into the ether. Investigators noted that even Mary's purse and money were left behind in the car, untouched. The scene was eerily pristine. Everything was in place, except for the family themselves. The abandoned station wagon, discovered deep in the woods with its doors closed and engine cold, felt like a ghostly Marie Celeste of the forest. A snapshot of a journey interrupted, waiting in the dark for passengers who never returned. The discovery of the car shifted the investigation into a new phase. What had started as a hopeful search and rescue was now an ominous case of possible foul play. Detectives carefully collected what little evidence the vehicle yielded. They found no definitive evidence of an accident, no dents or collision marks on the Opel to suggest a crash or slide off the road. The broken fuel line appeared suspicious, but it offered no clear answers on its own. With the groceries and laundry still present, it was obvious Mary had successfully completed at least part of her errands. Somewhere between the town and home, something, or someone, intervened. Authorities were left with a tableau of unexplained elements: a fixed television with no known repair shop, a car inexplicably rerouted onto an old logging trail, and a mother's personal belongings abandoned intact. Each clue only added to the dread. What chain of events could have led a young mother and her toddlers to vanish, leaving their car and all their provisions behind? As the 1970s gave way to the 1980s, the Stuart case remained unsolved and deeply unsettling to all who knew the family. Early on, law enforcement had quiet suspicions. In the absence of any other leads, Mary's husband, Byron Stuart, became a focal point of the investigation. Byron had not been on the trip that day, but questions swirled about what might have greeted Mary if she had made it back home. Byron's reputation for volatility was well known. Neighbors described him as violent and erratic, often armed with guns. Detectives learned that in the weeks after his family's disappearance, Byron's behavior turned especially bizarre. He reportedly abused drugs and even began insisting that Mary and the children had been abducted by extraterrestrials, a claim that only heightened suspicions against him. Officially, Byron McGray Stuart was considered the prime suspect in the case for years. However, investigators never found enough tangible evidence to bring charges against him. The mystery remained locked in silence. Byron left the area a few years later and was never able to shed light on what truly happened on that December day. He died in 1996 at the age of 48, taking any secrets he held to his grave. For decades, the disappearance of Mary, Jesse, and Fanny Stuart haunted Humboldt County like a dark legend. The case periodically resurfaced in the local consciousness, an infamous unsolved mystery in a region already known for its strange vanishings and lore. Every so often, a tip would emerge or a rumor would stir hope, only to fade away with no resolution. In 2009, over 30 years after the family's vanishing, the Humboldt County District Attorney's Office reopened the cold case, claiming to have new leads and information that warranted a fresh look. Investigators re-interviewed old witnesses and searched areas that had been overlooked, determined to finally uncover the truth. Forensic experts revisited the evidence with modern techniques, and the forests of honeydew were probed once more for any trace of remains. Yet despite these efforts, the fate of the Stuart family remained elusive. The primary suspect, Byron, was long deceased, and if he had confided in anyone, they had never come forward. Some fragments of the Stuart story could be reconstructed: the errands, the path taken, the car and its contents. But the critical gap between the last confirmed errand and the abandoned car loomed as an impenetrable void. To this day, the disappearance of the Stuart family endures as one of California's most haunting unsolved cases. The known facts present a chilling timeline with no clear ending. A routine trip on a winter morning, an inexplicable detour onto a lonely road, and an empty car holding mundane cargo that has turned into ominous evidence. What makes these disappearances particularly haunting isn't just the lack of closure, but the unsettling breadcrumbs left behind. Eerily undisturbed homes, half-finished routines, and untouched valuables. These aren't stories of families vanishing quietly into the night. They're ruptures in the ordinary that feel surgical, deliberate, and deeply wrong. One case that echoes the strange unease of the Stuart family disappearance is that of the Jameson family. A mother, father, and young daughter who vanished from rural Oklahoma in 2009. Like the Stuarts, they left behind a chillingly intact scene. Their truck found abandoned on a remote dirt road, doors ajar, ID and wallets untouched, and $32,000 in cash inexplicably stashed inside. Even more disturbing, their malnourished dog was still in the vehicle, barely alive. Surveillance footage captured before their departure shows the couple moving in a slow, mechanical trance, loading the truck silently, as if under some kind of shared spell. Later, a strange notebook was found, filled with rambling messages about death and spiritual warfare. For years, the Jamesons were simply gone, until, 4 years later, their skeletal remains were discovered just a few miles from where the truck was left. Their cause of death, undetermined. No signs of trauma, no confirmed foul play, no answers. And that's where the parallel holds, because even though the Jamesons were found, what happened to them is just as unknowable, just as soaked in silence and strangeness, as the mystery of the Stuart family, who remain missing without a trace. Just like the Jamesons, the Stuart family left behind a scene that felt more paused than abandoned. But unlike the Jamesons, whose bones were eventually found in the woods, the Stuarts left behind nothing. No bodies, no trace, no final location. It's as if they were plucked out of their lives mid-sentence. And after all these years, the silence surrounding their disappearance has only grown louder. Investigators and theorists alike have combed through timelines, behavior patterns, and loose threads. While outlandish theories exist, everything from alien abduction to portal cults, several explanations rise to the top as plausible, if not provable. Theory 1. A voluntary disappearance or staged vanishing. This theory suggests that Mary Stuart may have quietly orchestrated a disappearance, not out of panic, but with purpose. It's possible she used the pretense of a normal day, picking up groceries, getting errands done, as the cover for a final departure. Some believe she may have been escaping a private crisis or following the convictions of a belief system she kept hidden from others, even her husband. The car was later found abandoned on the logging road with groceries still inside, suggesting the day began as expected, but ended in something entirely different. If Mary chose to vanish, it means she staged a disappearance so seamless that no one saw it coming, and for decades, she may have been watching the world search for her from somewhere just out of reach. Theory 2. A murder-suicide pact. This theory imagines something darker, something internal, that Mary, perhaps suffering in silence, chose to end not just her own life, but the lives of her daughters too. Whether driven by despair, delusion, or an unseen psychological break, she may have set out that day knowing she wouldn't return. There were no public signs, no history of instability, but sometimes the unraveling is invisible. The fact that they disappeared while out adds to the eerie possibility that whatever happened, it happened far from home. Quietly, intentionally, without struggle. If Mary made that choice and followed through, their final resting place may still lie hidden, somewhere along the path between ordinary errands and total disappearance. Theory 3. Targeted abduction or elimination. This theory suggests the Stuarts didn't leave on their own terms. They were taken, not by chance or impulse, but by design. Mary and the girls were last seen going about an ordinary day, a visit to the repair shop, a grocery stop, and then nothing. There was nothing chaotic found in the family home because they never made it back, which raises the possibility that someone intercepted them on the road, someone who was watching, waiting, prepared. Not a random act of violence, but something targeted, maybe even personal. Each theory has enough room for doubt, and that's what keeps the case alive in the darkest corners of true crime forums and unsolved databases. And yet, despite all the theories and the cold logic, the heart of the mystery remains untouched. Strip away the speculation, and you're left with the quiet, aching question at the center of it all. The questions linger, unanswered. The Stuart family's story remains a dark enigma, a reminder of how quickly an ordinary day can twist into nightmare. Until new evidence is unearthed, or someone with knowledge speaks up, the forests around Honeydew keep their secrets. And the disappearance of Mary, Jessie, and Fanny Stuart stands as a chilling mystery, one that time has never solved.